Hi there. Good morning on this Monday in early June. How are you today? My name is Danny Henderson, and my guest today is the beautiful, the one and only, the light being herself, Cathy O Brien. Hello, Angel Face. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. I'm so happy to be here. I love talking with you. We have such um, profound conversations. I've looked forward to this.
Oh, me too, Cathy. Me too. And thank you. And I told you when we first met that I'd seen your documentary when I was working on television in England, and it was in another studio. And you made such an impression on me of someone who was taken MK Ultra, tortured beyond all manner of imagination, and broken down to become a slave for government uses and military purposes. And yet we jump forward to 2023. Not only are we friends, I've been able to say, my God, you impacted my life. Thank you so much. But also to be witness to your recovery, your healing, and the light that you give and the love that you are. And oh my God, I could just go on just, bigging up how I feel about you. But I know that it mirrors many other people. And I know that you're so humble. It's not always comfortable to receive such gratefulness and adoration, but if what you have in you wasn't within each of us, we wouldn't be able to see it anyway, would we? We really wouldn't.
Exactly. Oh, beautifully said. Yes, it's within us all to heal, no matter what life has put in our path, no matter what trauma, even if it was structured MK Ultra abuse like I experienced, or even if it's just dealing with disappointments in life or grief or anything like that, we can all go within ourselves and tap into that infinite source of strength, peace, and absolute freedom. It's a beautiful space to be. It's pure love. It's what we're intended to be all along. So when we go back to that space, we get clarity of vision on our path forward. And we have, in a way, a beautiful way of connecting with other people in that space because we do all share it.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Would you give us some background for those that have never seen you, and allow us into your growing up a little, and as much as we can share on this channel without being abused by the powers that think they are, but they're being extra aggressive these days and slamming people's channels down for those that tell the truth of the corruption on our planet. So may I just pass the floor to you, darling?
Oh, yes, it is definitely a dark energy force that is attempting to affect the minds of humanity because the formula for mind control is the same, whether it's of an individual or of a nation or of the whole world. So, this is exactly the mechanism being used by these perpetrators. And so my life's experience is really, I think, quite a glowing example that no matter what we endure in life, we can overcome it. And having been born into a multi-generational incest-based family, I was targeted for MK Ultra mind control because any belief system or knowledge base is passed down generationally. It's inherent knowledge. And so the abuse that my parents had experienced had been passed down generationally to them, and they were passing it down to me. And it was found that through research into MK Ultra mind control, the very scientific structure of it, that trauma is the basis for mind control, and a compliant society is needed because this dark energy force, from my whole life's experience having been around them, is they fear our strength of spirit most of all. So they were very interested in the multi-generational aspect of pedophile abuse because they found the most horrific trauma on the human mind is sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while their brain is still forming. So if that is genetically passed down generationally after 3 generations, an infant is born more compliant, whether they're abused or not. And that is exactly what they are deliberately trying to create in this pedophile agenda they're pushing so hard, is to create a compliant society for their slave society agenda. And it's important for us to know soul is stronger than genetics. So, even though all that was inherent, plus I was sexually abused by my father. My father was trafficking me to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. My father's mother had been involved in satanic ritual abuse, and my mother's family was more militaristic and more on a political end, extending into my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. So I was being trafficked, I was used in child pornography, I was being horrifically abused. But even though it was inherent, this kind of abuse, it didn't make it natural in my brain. So my brain went into its automatic defense mode. I couldn't think to know what my father was doing to me was wrong. I was an infant, but my brain knew. So it compartmentalized the memory of that event. It actually shut down neuron pathways in the brain to repress that memory. That's what repressed memory is. It's a defense mechanism in our brain when we experience trauma too horrible to comprehend. Well, those neuron pathways shut down from my father's abuse, and it shut down from being trafficked. It shut down from the child pornography. It shut down from ritual abuse. It was shutting down until I had no free thought left of my own. My conscious mind had totally taken flight. And that happens to us all when we experience trauma. It's like our conscious mind freezes in fright and leaves the subconscious mind wide open to being easily led and manipulated. Our subconscious doesn't rationalize and question and reason and critically analyze information the way that our conscious mind does. We need the pair. We need that interaction. But mine was disrupted from infancy on for the first 30 years of my life. And still, once I began to remember those things that had been repressed, all that I had been tortured to forget, I was able to reclaim my conscious thought. So our brains are resilient, our minds are resilient, our souls, our spirits, everything that we are is so resilient and strong. We have this amazing capability within it. And that's what these perpetrators fear the most, is that we're all going to remember that. We've been conditioned for generations to look outside ourselves to authority, to lead us and tell us what to do and how to act. When in fact, if we look within, we find an infinite source of strength and peace and wisdom. That's where we win. That's where where they lose, because love is the most powerful force in the universe. And that's our innate energy source. So regardless of what we endure in life, even if it's deliberately structured, we still have the resiliency to be able to heal and reclaim the beautiful lives that we're intended to live.
Just wow. Lady, I could listen to you all day. Again, the way you speak and the way that you deliver your harrowing babyhood to toddlerhood to childhood and all the different stages, and you were abused from day one as a newborn infant, and that the brain will shut down to protect the being from the horrors and somehow help them move forward. I want people to really kind of understand and get their head around the fact that a lot of the leaders, living, dead, a lot of the leaders across our planet, there are very few, and I do make that claim, that have not been in some way sociopathically groomed and harmed themselves, because they get them young. Like you said, it's generational. There's many multitudes of families on different levels of politics and religion who have been bred for sociopathic harm for a small group of people, as we know. They are groomed to lead, and it is generational. So some of the leaders, people say, how could they be so cruel? How could they be so evil? And they don't want to believe that little ones are being trafficked to heads of police or heads of hospitals or heads of the school. We can't understand because we would never do those things. It's
Right.
not our natural nature or the nurture that a lot of us have gone through, but those that have had their nurture kidnapped and eradicated like you did. You had no nurture. You were told and groomed and programmed like a machine. Yet the power of love still overcame. Something in you found that source and rose up. And when I watched your documentary with your beautiful since passed on husband Mark Phillips, what a handsome, beautiful man. God, I love
Yeah.
all the different still on YouTube, many conferences that you and he did together. He's just like a honey, like his voice, you know what I mean? And just the bravery and the couple, and you can see how in love he was with you, the way he looked at you, the way he honored you. And it's such a beautiful thing in a strong big man to see him put his lady forward, his wife forward, in the way that Mark did with you. When I watched the documentary, I think it was 2009, and I remember listening to the story where he knew about you being held hostage and used in terrible ways by a very famous ventriloquist, and he saved you. He went against the protocol of not interfering, and he saved you. And it was the love that you developed with him that allowed you not only to start to heal, but remember, because the MK Ultra programs, they probably thought when you had escaped from their hold, the grooming, the life of slavery that you were living, they probably assumed that, she'll never remember, but you did because of the love. Can you take us through those elements that I just raised there, please, as much as is comfortable for you?
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, love is the greatest healer and it's the most powerful force. So together, Mark and I were very strong in being able to bring pertinent information out on mind control and healing from it. Him, from an outside perspective, having worked in the highest levels of intelligence, mind sciences, and me from having experienced that, and both of us feeling such a strong sense of life's purpose to be able to show people that healing is possible from any level of manipulation. Mark had seen where the plan for this great reset globalist agenda that's being pushed on humanity was using mind control to usher it in because they're afraid of the strength of the human spirit. They're afraid of that power of love. And he was like, well, we need to remind people that they have it within themselves to stop cooperating with this dark agenda. He also saw the pedophile agenda being used to fund this mechanism. It was a funding mechanism of this globalist agenda. So he wanted to do something about all that and had rescued my daughter and me right out of the Washington, D.C. swamp. And what a hero doing that all the way back in 1988. And yet, anytime I would say anything to indicate, well, you're such a hero for that, he would be like, anybody will do that when they live their purpose. Anybody would do what I did if they saw what I saw. You know, he just had this attitude that that's the way humanity is. And from my life's experience, I had never seen anybody stand up for good. I never saw anybody stand up against abusive animals and against abusive children. And I never saw anybody do that. So he was like something so amazing to me. And he kept telling me, he said, no, the goodness of humanity is by far the majority in this world. You need to open your eyes beyond what you think you know based on your life's experience and see reality as it is, because people are good. Wow, was he ever right? You know, it's now from the point of view that I have gained in light of our love and shared life's purpose. I've experienced so many good people on this planet that it's like laughably inexcusable that we allow a small handful of dark energy force perpetrators to manipulate our brilliant minds and lives anymore. Mark is right. We all have it within ourselves to stand up and say no more. We have it within ourselves to reclaim our birthright to live in love and freedom and peace and protect our children from this adverse agenda. Protect our beautiful planet from the onslaught of nonsense that these hateful perpetrators are imposing on the world too. And it's just time that we all realize that. Stop looking outside ourselves for someone else to do it for us and look within ourselves to realize it. And for all that Mark and I shared, all the beauty of that, it was only he wouldn't have anything to do with me until I healed and knew who I am. So we weren't like a team of 50-50. We were 100. And that being 100% in who we are gives us the ability to have that strength of spirit within ourselves, not rely on someone else to live our lives for us or to make all that difference for us, and take responsibility for our own lives, have the ability to respond to what is wrong in our world and fix it. It's not the way it's supposed to be. We have just let this dark energy force blindside us for a long time. And it's time that we all realize that. And I honor Mark every single day by living the love that I am and carrying our shared life's purpose forward.
Yeah, just amazing. I just had a malfunction there with my microphone. I love it. I love everything you explain and express, and I love the way that you stand there with that frequency of happiness and joy, knowing that as much as you went through everything you did, from a baby to a young woman, mother, that you weren't crushed, that no, they didn't take your soul. And if we look at you as an example of somebody who was a target of this corruption, this demonizing, this sucking all the light out of you, and looking at the ultimate failure, we don't even go through a third of what you have gone through. So as a shining example of what a person can overcome, I really do see you in that light too, for us. Could you share with us some of the insights into MK Ultra mind control? The whole planet is under a trance.
Yes.
Mind control, hypnotic spell in many different levels. But could you give us directly your actual experience of some of the techniques used on teachers, police, politicians, kings, queens, families, heads of families, mothers, fathers do this to their children? Yes, please, MK Ultra.
Yes, it's very pervasive on a global scale. And it's also a sliding scale from the kind of torturous, structured, robotic mind control I experienced on a White House Pentagon level through various military, NASA, and DARPA installations, to information control, because we all formulate our thoughts, opinions, and actions based on what we know, and we need to know. That knowledge base has been altered for a long time. I think we're starting to see how the education system has been deliberately impacted with misinformation, and to condition and indoctrinate our children to look outside themselves to authority to tell them how to live their lives. And another form of mind control, or component of, is an identity confusion, because the kind of abuse that I experienced created dissociative identity disorder. This is where a person no longer recognizes themselves in any way. They have no understanding of self, because everything is compartmentalized through those neuron pathways shutting down. And because they're shut down, there's no intercommunication in between. So this part of the brain doesn't know what this part has done, and this part, and so it goes. And a person loses sight of who they are inside. Masks are used in MK Ultra Mind Control to depersonalize, because with a mask on, we don't see facial expression. And it also inhibits oxygen to the brain necessary for critical analysis, free thought, muffles a voice. Well, consider what we did to our children by masking them up and creating this depersonalization, which is a lesser form of dissociative identity disorder, but nevertheless is the same inability to recognize self or to look to self for any kind of answers. They don't look to themselves to analyze information. They're not critically analyzing it. It's just information pumped in on a subconscious level while their conscious mind is totally distracted. And then their subconscious is wide open to being easily led. And with that mask on and the improper oxygen to the brain, they were easily led. They too can heal, but we got a ways to go when we realize that aspect of MK Ultra mind control was imposed on the world for the purposes of ushering in the slave society agenda. Our children are the ones who are targeted, and they have been for generations, literally for generations, which is why some of the parents are just compliant and go along with what's happening to the children as they experience this identity confusion. It's not gender confusion, it's identity confusion from depersonalization. And it's also being passed down generationally now so that it creates more compliance and manipulation. That formula for MK Ultra mind control that I experienced is the same one being imposed on the global population. We need to just realize that knowledge is our defense against mind control. Once we have the knowledge, we have defense against it going forward. We evolve.
Yeah, so true. The sad thing is the deliberate misinformation that is woven through, and things like, Fauci, we'll call him Dr. Welchi or Ouchie, whatever, that his mother really is Mother Teresa, for example. Did you ever have any? Well, I'll speak for myself. I met Mother Teresa's right-hand girl, Sister Joachim, or in Europe, they call her Sister Joachim. And she ran Krakow, the town of Krakow in Poland. She ran the Mother Teresa. She was in my family. She's my ex-husband's sister, stepsister, right? So and I sat with her and I heard her. This is what we need. We need one-to-one, not just gossip, because that's what they bank on. The dark bank on us hearing gossip and going, oh, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? And I sat on the floor with Laura and I asked her all about Mother Teresa. And she said she was the most loving, sweetest, hardworking woman. And that these nuns would get up at 4 o'clock and they would wash with cold water. And it was a really hard life. But their agenda was to go out and find the dying and bring the dying back to the convent and let them die with dignity. I mean, that is a beautiful mission. And then I've, like everybody else, I've heard, or she's a man, or, I think she might have been a bit more focused on, saving souls and focusing on the religion. And believing that children maybe were going to really adopted families. Of course, there's all that horror that's coming out. But I demand proof. I want proof. I want firsthand names. Who was there? Because we are, people have come for me because I've got a picture with Stedman Graham, who I knew, who I worked with in the school systems, curriculum vitae, changing the education because it's bullshit education. And I was talking with my friend, Dr. Christiane Northrup, like yesterday. We covered some of the same information that she's been on that Oprah show 1,000 times. And now she's a conspiracy theorist and this and that. Everything is so warped. And now, like this week is a massive week for disclosure on the galactic side of things, right? You're a massive part of disclosure in government corruption and MK Ultra. So let's go back to Mother Teresa. Did you ever meet her, hear anything about her?
I did not meet her, but I certainly experienced a lot of Catholic abuse within the church. And I'm also aware that there's a huge movement within the church to get the corruption out, because in my life's experience, the intelligence arm of the Vatican is the Jesuits. And they combined and aligned with the CIA. They merged as one under what was known as the New World Order of the Rose. And it was to create a form of mind control that went into the churches to manipulate the people who think they're following orders from God, that they need to do something political and vote for this person, or whatever manipulation they had going on. But I think the most important one to realize is that the Catholics had long since learned about the effects of trauma on the human mind through the Spanish Inquisition and the Crusades, and the spoils of those violent wars were the children. And the children were put into the orphanages, and then they were manipulated to perpetuate the Catholic Jesuit mind control agenda, which is the pedophile agenda that has been allowed to proliferate in the church for so long. So there are good people and bad people within everything in all walks of life. And we need to start realizing that, and realize that when we look to the very top, we're likely to find the dark agenda being manipulated. And people inside, like, I can't make any judgment on Mother Teresa at all. She's probably acting out of love, and yet any children that were going into the orphanages could have been thrust into the funding mechanism of the New World Order. So we get this area that we need to explore and realize, go to the roots of the corruption so we can uproot it once and for all, and allow for people with good intentions to actually carry out their purpose in the way that it's intended to. Now, there are many people working within Child Protective Services right now that want to help children, and yet it is overseen by a criminal faction of the FBI, which I think that just is the whole FBI in my life's experience, where the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children was set up as a catch net operation for human trafficking, especially child sex trafficking. Now, this is part of that Jesuit CIA alliance that formulated this catch net operation. So when we realize they're overseeing Child Protective Services, when we're helping children who've been trafficked, we can't thrust them into Child Protective Services until we clean up the dark corruption at the very top of it. So it doesn't mean everybody working in there is bad or has bad intention. It means that the ones that have been placed in key positions are the ones we need to pay attention to and see what their agenda is. You know, we look at secret societies, because all this has gone on in secret, which is why censorship is so strong. But these secret societies, you know, going back to like my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge, they had the secret information on the formula for mind control and the pedophile agenda that sexual abuse of a child would make the most compliant society. So that information was right there in that secret society, and it's been perpetuated through secret societies. And I think when we look at that Masonic aspect, we know if you were a Mason, you got a good job. You were placed in a higher position of influence. It's the way it was structured. And then that expanded further until people were put in key positions at the head of something like the FBI, or the head of various governments. And now the self-appointed, self-anointed leaders that are over all of them. You know, you just get those handful at the top. They've been deliberately placed under secrecy, under national security, or whatever means of cover they need. That secrecy has allowed for this dark agenda to go on for a long time, because the good people don't think to look for that. But we better think of it now, and we better get it fixed and uprooted, because like I said, they just have no no business meddling in our brilliant minds and lives any longer.
Yeah, that's so true. God, there's so many things there. I love your phrase of self-appointed, self-anointed, the nepotism, the despicable ways that people have been put in charge, and the hoodwinking of the beautiful humanity that believe their vote counts, their choice for a good person that they see as a good person counts. And of course it doesn't. You know,
Yeah.
all the presidents and prime ministers and senators across the planet are already selected years before.
Yes.
You know, and I don't know how many more elements of heartbreak people are going to have to individually feel, but they have a choice in how they respond. You know,
yes,
their dreams are shattered. All of the things, not all, of course, but the systems and the structure of our planet is absolutely as rotten and stinking and fetid and cancerous as we could not even imagine in ways.
Yeah.
And we, the people, do change the education. We do, you know, it's going to be so different. It's already happening, you know, and now is the time for the real people of truth and the real people of experience to be the ones to stand up. And what you're seeing this week is the galactic, you know, our off-planet brothers and sisters, our off-planet humans that work on other planets, because of course other planets are settled. It is old friggin' news, but a lot of people are going to be like, oh, wow, do you mean there's aliens? Well, like, where have you been, mate? Where have you been? But then they're going to find out a lot of the craft we see in the sky is military craft. It's humans flying craft around. And there is planned agenda to this week in particular to get us to look up, because what's happening on the ground is the clash and the falling down of the system. So they try, the distractions are there all the time, you know, and then the bullshit comes in between. But, you know, this week is massive for revelations of alien craft, beautiful species from other star systems who are all lined up right above geostationary orbit on our planet to protect us from the darkness that tried to take over humanity. Because as you say, we are the most beautiful species. These beings, us, we are beyond powerful. We all own and possess God-like, goddess abilities, metaphysical abilities, and they've tried to. You mentioned the Jesuits. I think they're the biggest, baddest mofos ever in terms of, right? The religious structure, the cruelty, the dominance.
Yes.
I remember a friend of mine, he's a behavioral therapist, Jean-Pierre Marquez. I remember him telling me he was working with Jesuit priests, and who, again, they are not all evil. There is a faction, and there was training that they were not even allowed to have erotic dreams, or to, you know, how sometimes people will wake up and the body has released in the way that the body releases, you know, sexually without, you know, help from the person inhabiting that body. Sorry to go around such a long way.
Beautifully stated.
Yeah, my friend Jean-Pierre shared with me that he had to uncoach these traumatized men, because they were told, you cannot have a single impure thought. You cannot think about women or other people. You cannot have an orgasm. You cannot touch your own self to release pent-up energy, whatever. And he gave me such an insight into some of the training and the programming of a monastic sect of the Jesuits. And then when we come to know that a lot of the people at the top have Jesuit connection, definitely Catholic connection, and they don't care about love. You know, it's not love for them. It's not about religion for them. It's just about control.
Yes, right.
It's so fascinating, isn't it? All of the curtains are opening, and all of the little doors, you know, religious, medical, educational, medicine. Oh my God. And something else I wanted to just say to you. I was hanging out with Dr. Christiane yesterday, Dr. Christiane Northrup. She also, to me, is another giant of disclosure in terms of health for humanity, especially female health, gynecology, obstetrics, birthing, because all of that has been horrifically abused en masse, as we've seen. And she was with the most beautiful, beloved man, Ron, who she speaks about in our broadcast that will come out tomorrow on the 13th, or in 2 days. And she lost her Ron um, in 2020. And a few weeks after she lost her beloved, I lost mine, Jeff Smith.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to see. And then and my Jeff was a giant of a man too, and somebody who works in the realm of spirit to support humanity. And Dr. Christiane believes that her run is working in the realms of spirituality for humanity, you know, behind the scenes, as it were. And then you lost your beautiful beloved giant Mark, you know. It's just an interesting thing to note that we lost our beloveds, who were these giant men of love, you know, and were world changers.
What a perspective that we gain on the veil between who is here and who has moved on. You know, it's so amazing, the miracles that fill my life. And Mark had taught me a long time back that when miracles become common in your life, you know you're doing something right. And so when he passed away, I didn't want to close down and shut down away from the beauty of the possibility of miracles. And my life has just been filled with so many miracles, insights, profound experiences in that since then, that I think if, as people deal with grief, because grief is such a harsh part of this life, we need to look beyond it to realize that love lives, and it's forever, and it's within us, and we can carry it in us forward instead of just caving it. When we're 100% in who we are, that connection is absolute as ever, and it does live on. It's a amazing strength, and the fact that I was able to stand strong after Mark passed away, I think gave a lot of people another view into what true healing really is, because I've been healed for 35 years. I have not been triggerable. I can't be triggered in. I can't be manipulated. I can't be misled. And then after Mark passed away, they found out, wow, that really is just my strength. That is who I am. Because when we heal from within ourselves, we have that infinite source of strength and love. So that capability just shines real clear. And I think maybe all of us, you and, you know, and maybe we're shining a little bit brighter and a little bit more because of the amazing truth that we know as a result of our experience with love.
Yeah, absolutely. And it certainly is so great to witness this strong band of women and men, of course, right now to focus on. It's like when you and I did our last broadcast, we were with the beautiful Gloria Masters. Now, Gloria Masters from New Zealand is, to me, another iconic example of a little girl who was groomed by her grandmother and auntie, molested and tortured and harmed physically, sexually by her dad, who would then lease her out on weekends to gangs or whatever. And that there's this deep insidiousness of gang culture, where some gangs over the years have used a child as a reward. This deep, sickening psychopathy that is a cancer through humanity has been ejected into our society by a handful of dark demonics, and they are so run out of, because even some of these people, they want to stop suffering. They don't want to be of the dark. They want to be free from the chains that bind them. And we're seeing that more and more because there is more light on our planet. There are more light codes coming from the sun that changed the physiology and the environment, you know. And again, you know, it is the greatest time to disclose every single thing and bring every single thing forward. And I really wish, Cathy, that people would still stop fighting. You know, let's take the galactic community. This infighting because people are desperate to be on platforms and be famous and be the ones to, you know, and then there's all these conferences. We're all going to get swamped over because there are other much bigger people with media manipulation behind them. So while we're all scrapping amongst each other, you know, this week we're going to see people riding by. Now, I was working with the Lakota people last year, beautiful Chase Ionize. He's a lawyer and he's a Lakota child. And he does so much work, so much good for his people, you know, the people, the indigenous people. Let's not get into too much detail about their abuse and genocide. But
really, yeah,
Jesus, at every action. And he was sharing on the last broadcast I did with him that he literally, him and his wife, who's also a Lakota, they raised over $1 million to buy back land that was taken and desecrated by the American government. And it was such a beautiful revelation, but so tragic. And then I'm getting emails from other people that don't agree with what they're doing, Chase and the Lakota Law Project. And I'm like, God, even where you want to see it the less, people just cannot stop bloody arguing, trying to be right, trying to be the ones with the truth. We need to all collapse in together with the energy of love and hope, not even hope, because we need it now. Like, hope is always in the future to me, like now. Loving energy, everyone come. If you want to be part of this great, beautiful humanity, drop your bloody ego, own your responsibilities, right? Say, if you're wrong, you're wrong. I've been wrong so many times. I have made so many terrible errors in people I thought were telling the truth and had humanity in their mind's eye, and they don't, you know, and I admit I've been wrong. You know, it's okay. We're human because we love first. We tend to trust first, don't we? It's kind of how we're programmed. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I think everybody's got a piece of the puzzle to bring forward, and together we bring the most beautiful picture into focus. And for someone to think they need to dominate and be the picture, the whole picture, is so ridiculous to me. I can't grasp that concept. I can't even grasp that concept, let alone the idea of wanting to dominate the world. You know, how much power and money do you need? I don't get it. What is that for? Self-control is so amazing in itself. You know, it's like when I woke up from mind control and was so horrified to learn what the plan is for us all, how they wanted to keep us divided and fighting with each other just so we didn't look at them and know who the real problem is. You know, when I realized what I had been tortured and forced to do for these perpetrators, it's like, how can I ever, you know, love myself? How can I ever move forward in my life? And Mark told me, he said, you're not responsible for what you did under mind control, but you're responsible for everything going forward. And if everybody everywhere realized that, reevaluated their values and reprioritized their priorities, they would find there's just no need to fight and argue, that we've been conditioned. We need to forgive ourselves for our short-sightedness and for what we were told to see, when in fact we need to start seeing reality as we wake up. It's more than forgiving ourselves or forgiving anyone else. It's about an understanding and a knowledge. And then when we go within ourselves to find who we really are, we find the energy source of our being, free of other people's perceptions and what they think of us, you know. And it is at that level that we naturally all unite, because that's our commonality. And it's such a beautiful aspect of life to be able to live that and not be hindered by the imposed mind manipulation that we all have experienced to some degree or another, and stop fighting with each other, because that's natural. When we live the love we are, that's not a space for fighting and judging, and it's one of understanding and unity. And it's a beautiful space to be. And then taking, like what Mark taught me about responsibility and taking that forward, to me, that's the ability to respond. It's the freedom to choose our response based on purpose and meaning and love. And choosing that, what a beautiful way to take responsibility for our own lives. As we realize that responsibility comes with soul expression and the strength of the human spirit, how could we possibly impose that on another? That's within them to discover for themselves. And all of a sudden, there's no need for any kind of domination. There's no need for someone to be stronger than the other, or more powerful, or have a bigger voice, or have, it changes the whole dynamic. And I think that was something that I learned from my life's experience, but I also learned from my loving relationship with Mark, where we didn't have to agree on all things because we got to learn from the things that we didn't agree on, and honored each other for our differences. We didn't have to try to change the other to be like us. We both needed to be who we are in order to accomplish what we needed to accomplish together. And, we expand that out into community. We expand that out even further. And all of a sudden, we're remembering the way life is intended to be lived in light of love and peace and joy, and no more bickering and infighting and nonsense. It's not about any kind of domination. It's about being able to shine brighter and brighter and brighter every day to be more of who we all are inside.
It's so amazing. Now, I got your book, Time to Heal, PTSD, Time to Heal, and I did the exercises in it. And I so want the whole friggin' world to know this little book is incredibly powerful. You wrote it. You lived the actions within it. You proved to yourself that the techniques work, and you put it out there into the field for us. And I am one such person who is very grateful that I got it and I've used it. Could you tell us about the book and some of the techniques that people can get to help begin if they haven't started their own healing, please?
Yeah, this is information that's really just our birthright knowledge that Mark found was buried under national security on the highest levels of mind sciences. It was withheld from the medical community, the mental health community, and from society as a whole. It was kept out of education. It's just our basic birthright information. And he reminded me that it's within me to heal. Mark did not deprogram me. He gave me the keys to deprogram myself by writing out my memory. By writing out memory, all those neuron pathways in the brain that were shut down have to open up to transfer information over to the logic part of the brain, which is required for moving a pen. When we pick up a pen and paper, we activate this critical analysis center in our brain, and it helps us to deal with emotionally incomprehensible trauma in a way that is logical, where we see it consciously in front of us, and all of a sudden we're healing on all levels at once. And this is just one tool that Mark had given me that we need to get back into our everyday lives, get it back into our school system. That will help the kids to not be indoctrinated and to be able to critically analyze information. We all can use that for ourselves and write out what our fears, our traumas, what negativity is holding us back from being all that we can be. And when we write that out of our way, all of a sudden we find ourselves free to live the love that we are. There are many other tips in there that are really important too. Like Mark taught me to wear a watch, and watch, because when there's compartmentalization in a brain, there's no continuity of thought and therefore no continuity of time. And when anybody is dissociative of any level of dissociation or depersonalization, it's like they're not aware of time. So a concept of time equates to a concept of awareness. And that helped me to stay present so that I couldn't be triggered anymore. And I learned what it was like to be consciously present by monitoring time and making sure that I didn't dissociate and lose any more time. So that was an important aspect. And yet, beyond that, just the whole idea was timing is even more important than time itself, because when we're in a harmonious flow, that synchronistic flow of life that is where our purpose and our love flows, then timing is really important, because it helps us to do the right things at the right time for the right people and be in this particular flow. And yet I'd never realized the importance of this beautiful timing and synchronicity if it weren't for gaining a concept of time first. So it's a great way to keep ourselves present and in control of our own lives, so that we don't fall prey to the latest repetitive narrative on TV or whatever negativity we're being bombarded with. So that's just another tool. And another really important one is to get out in nature and enjoy. Feel the earth under your feet, take off your shoes, hug a tree, embrace the wind. It's just such a beautiful thing to be in nature. And nature teaches us, it nurtures our own nature. And these are all beautiful things. And I've got to mention, of course, the voice no negatives without a solution, because people all over the world are just taking even that one pearl of wisdom from Mark and applying it to their lives. And it makes all the difference in the world, because if you can voice no negatives without a solution, then you have to rise above the negativity. And it is when we're in that higher mind where the neuron pathways are firing in bright new ways that we see a clear path forward. And it's a beautiful way to be able to rise above negativity instead of reinforcing that negativity by giving voice to it. The more voice we give to it, the more negative energy we're creating. And these perpetrators of the slave society agenda feed off of negativity. So we don't want to give them any energy source. We want to live the love we are. We want to rise above that instead of just grumbling and complaining. And, everything that I've done since I've healed has been out of love for humanity, love for my daughter, love for the children. It's love that is so powerful. It's not any bitterness for my abuser, no hatred. They got enough of that from me the first 30 years when I lived in terror of their torturous traumas. They're not going to get any more of that. That's the energy they feed off. And if we all raise our vibration and stay in that beautiful space of solutions, SOUL, solutions, we're above them. We're becoming their worst fear. Their greatest nightmare is us realizing our own power again and living that love that we are.
Exactly. And earlier, as a therapist, it's very important to, recognize that people are some at the beginning of their healing journey. And I mentioned that, you've gone through so much. There are people that haven't gone through a third of that. Now, I say that just as an example that you can recover no matter what. But as a person out there who has suffered trauma, don't think that you are less than because Cathy has gone through more than you have. Right? It's important that each individual person owns their pain, feels their pain, dissolves that pain inside of themselves, but doesn't tell themselves, I'm not worthy of healing because I haven't suffered like Cathy has. That's not what this broadcast is about. It's not whatever Cathy said, certainly not what I mean. So I just want to bring clarity to that, because sometimes a person will hear something that wasn't said, or it's landed in them a certain way, and they're convinced now that that person said this. And again, we've got to be really clever and careful and open and honest about what we're listening to. Now, people say, oh, I haven't watched TV for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. Okay, but you are watching YouTube all day long and all night long, yes. Right? And you are going from one broadcast to another. You are still being infiltrated with negative information, wrong information. And again, take a break from that, write your book, pick up the phone to your mum that you haven't spoken to for 10 years, reach out to a kid that's been ignoring you for 2 years, write that letter to a teacher you were abusive to and say sorry. It's like these little teeny tiny things that hang in our space that we don't realize are there for an opportunity for us to heal, to let go of the pain in us, right?
Absolutely. And, that's why I was saying the formula for mind control is a sliding scale all the way to information control. So there's no measure for, someone endured more trauma than I did, or someone knew this person while they were traumatized. So I must have known this person. None of that matters. None of that does. What matters is that we realize it's within us to heal from whatever kind of manipulation, whatever kind of trauma that we've experienced in life, and rise above it. It's within us all. And it is such a beautiful celebration. And I always remind people too that, over the line, on any kind of abuse is over the line. Anything that causes dissociation, anything that causes immobilizing negativity, that needs to be dealt with. And that's there's just like no measure beyond that. It's just it's immeasurable. Once our brain is affected, it's affected. It's up to us to keep it strong so that we can navigate our own lives by our own free will choices.
Absolutely. And it starts in the womb, programming and negative talk, and again, generational for many people. And so many millions and millions or billions of people have been affected by their own darkness in their family, the lack of care, lack of, and remember, I think people give themselves a break and remember themselves what they felt like as a little child that was being verbally shouted at, called names. They felt unloved. They were being harmed by other kids, by teachers, by family members, by church members. And remember the child inside of each person, to parent that child, to bring love to that child. To me, that is the key to finality of healing. The key is take care of that baby inside of each of us that we have, and show them, look how big you got, and now look how powerful you are and what you get to do. Because so many people don't realize that when they've suffered a trauma, it could be something so simple back when they were 4, 5, 6 years old, and it stayed with them, but it's created a emotional paralysis. And sometimes in their life at age 50, let's say, that little part of them is making decisions for them from that perspective.
Yeah.
And these are the realizations that we're coming in to reveal and share, and hope that people listen and help themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. To stop the past from intruding on the present, because we have so much growth, so much opportunity, so much potential. And I'm so excited watching as people wake up to face the reality that we do share this planet with some dark energy force, and that they're not going to comply with it anymore. As we move through this phase into the next, when we are free to explore and learn, there's so many aspects of life to be celebrated and explored. And it's like, this is our time. So whatever is hindering anybody from that miraculous aspect of life, kind of clear that out, write that out, pick up a pen and paper, get that out of there, so it can't hinder our progress, because where we go from here is just limitless. We have such astounding capabilities within us all, and we don't have to sit around and mourn a childhood lost, because that innocence, that purity, that spirit of the child is still there. It was always protected. It is totally untainted. We can reclaim that at any time and live our life's purpose the way that it's intended to be lived. What a celebration and a joy that is.
That's wonderful. That is so special. I mentioned Gloria Masters earlier. She's going to be coming on this week too. And she is another baby girl who, like you, was horrifically harmed in all ways, imaginable and unimaginable. And, you know, you two are these iconic examples of little girls that have survived with their physical bodies. Obviously, a lot of work has had to be done internally to survive all of that horror. But I hold you up in such high esteem, both of you. And Gloria Masters is now, and her project is, I always say it the wrong way around, sorry, Gloria, handing back the shame, or handing the shame back.
Yeah.
To play on those words, because the shame of it is not our shame to hold when someone's done something dreadful to you. But she is pushing forward on a mission for the human trafficking, to recognize those in the children in danger, and the hand signal, you know, the little tiny hand signal that this child is, if this, you see this, the child is screaming out, help me, you know, I'm being trafficked, I'm being harmed, I need help. So she and I will be going through some of the details of that mission. And again, she's another giant like you in the love of humanity, and how we can heal, and how to heal, and how to understand that the adults that put themselves in charge of the planet should never have been given those matches to play with in the first place. They are all unfit for purpose. Their time is done, and it's all coming down. And we stand together, shoulder to shoulder, in love, and bring all the systems the brightest light, so we can see the darkness. So we off it. Now, my darling, is there anything else that you would love to leave the beautiful audience that will see this?
Oh, it's just been a wonderful conversation. And you have mentioned several of just the most amazing people that you're continuing to give voice to, which is, I just love that so much. But there's so many of us. There are so many of us who are given voice to the situation, not in an overwhelming way, not because we want to talk about the darkness, but because we want people to take action, to find their own power, and to be able to unite with us in making the positive difference. That this is our time. It's our time to shine. It's our time to live the love that we are, and start making the difference that we're here to make for the children's sake. And it's happening. Join the majority, the vast majority of us who are already well on our way to making that difference in light of love's purpose.
Wonderful, so beautiful. That's just amazing. I'm going to put the link to your book under books under this broadcast for people to enjoy and study the true history of their planet through the eyes of a little girl who was MK Ultra'd. The book is The Transformation of America. The link will be underneath. Cathy O Brien, what a joy, what an honor to be in the same field, the same space, the same screen as you again. Thank you for everything that you do. Sending you so much love. Just love you. Yeah, so in awe of you. Thank you. And
Thank you.
Oh,
I love you.
Oh yeah. Don't make me cry, girl. Don't make me cry. The energy that you emit, there are so many people in pain out there, and they will see you, they will feel your soul and your heart, and something will unlock in them. And this is something that you in particular hold as a frequency, and it is just something to behold, to be looking at it, and it just again shows the power of love, the true energy frequency that we humans were made to thrive within. Beautiful. To the audience out there, thank you for always showing up. Thank you for always supporting. And I love the live chats that we always have, and the family feeling that we all bring to each other as we are all on this journey. And I love that we remember that none above another, no one above another. I'm not playing with you if you put yourself above me or anybody else. We're here to support, to respect, to love, to listen, to help, to guide all of us in all of our different ways. So keep going out there, guys. This is a really fascinating week in revealing some of the things that we should have been told a long time ago. I send you love from my heart to yours, and I will see you soon.